The female college student I sponsored asked me to let her stay at my home to have her baby after she got pregnant. After moving in, my husband showed all kinds of care for her. She had a smug look on her face. I'll see how long she can be smug. I woke up with a start from the bed, and the feeling of suffocation seemed to still be there. I tried to move and found that my hands and feet could still move freely. I slowly exhaled, having a feeling of surviving a disaster. After being killed by traitor and siren, I was reborn. Remembering the experience of being insulted by traitor and siren while lying paralyzed on the bed in the last days of my previous life, hatred rose in my heart. I must make them pay. Siren is a student I sponsored. After graduating from college, she broke up with her boyfriend. But after the breakup, Siren found out that she was unexpectedly pregnant. After Siren got pregnant, no company would hire her, and her ex-boyfriend was nowhere to be found. Siren found me and said that she was desperate and begged me to let her have her baby at my home. She said that since I had sponsored her for so long, I could help her again and take her in. I was soft-hearted for a moment and agreed. I treated Siren well with good food and drink. As a result, I found out that she was having an affair with my husband Traitor. When I found evidence and wanted to officially propose divorce to Traitor, I got sick. My limbs gradually became weak and atrophied, and my breathing gradually became difficult. Traitor said that the doctor diagnosed it as a myotrophic lateral sclerosis. However, neither of my parents has the dominant gene for this disease. When I was completely paralyzed on the bed and unable to take care of myself, Traitor and Siren completely stopped hiding their affair. Traitor and Siren were sweet in front of me, spending the money that originally belonged to my company. Around me, however, were surrounded by excrement that had been piled up for a long time and not cleaned up. I finally died without dignity. Starting over, I will make them all pay. The mobile phone on the bedside vibrated. I picked it up and saw that Siren had sent me a message. She said, "Sister Vengeance, I am really desperate. I am now pregnant and showing. No company is willing to hire me. My ex-boyfriend doesn't know where he is. Can I go to your home to have my baby? I have already asked Brother Traitor, and he also agreed. Sister Vengeance, you have sponsored me for so long. It doesn't matter if you help me again this time, right? Asking Traitor first and then asking me. This is acting first and reporting later." I tapped on the phone screen coldly. "Sure, welcome to come. I will definitely entertain you well." After replying to Siren, I immediately called a master to come and installed monitoring and recording equipment in hidden places at home. Siren arrived at my home that night. She arrived with Traitor. When they entered the door, I just came out of the room. I saw the two of them hugging each other, very ambiguous. At the moment I saw them, Traitor immediately let go of Siren, with some embarrassment in his eyes. He explained to me, "I picked up Siren on the way. When we just entered the door, Siren was about to fall. I helped her." Siren gave Traitor an unhappy look, and then said to me, "Yes, Sister Vengeance. Thanks to Brother Traitor." In their previous life, when they just arrived home, they were also hugging and were seen by me. At that time, I really believed their words. I don't know if there was something wrong with my brain in my previous life. They were so obvious but I didn't see it. I really believed their lies. I hid the ridicule in my heart, nodded to show understanding, and then took Siren to her room to put down her luggage. After settling her down, I showed her around the house. This villa was designed and supervised for decoration by me at that time. It is warm without losing its magnificence. When I showed Siren around, I could see the unbridled greed and jealousy in her eyes. After seeing her expression clearly, I took her back to her room and let her have a good rest. When closing the door, I heard her mutter in a low voice. Immediately after, Isabella's weak voice came from the. I heard Siren say, "Why can she live in such a luxurious house while I can only stay temporarily? Who cares about this kind of charity? After I give birth to the child, these things will be mine sooner or later." I didn't expect that my help to Siren was just charity in her eyes. This may be the maliciousness of the recipient. My sponsorship made her see her own insignificance and inferiority. She thinks that I am despising and giving charity to her. She accepts my help but is full of hatred and wants to replace me. But, what she said, after giving birth to this child, these things will be hers sooner or later. It seems that there is still something fishy about whose child this is after all. Chapter 2 I contacted a private detective to help me investigate the relationship between Traitor and Siren before. I always feel that there is still something between them that I don't know. After Siren came to my home, she only wandered around at home every day, and her behavior became more and more arrogant. She didn't treat herself as an outsider at all. Instead, she had the air of treating herself as the hostess. At first, she asked the nanny to do things for her. Later, she directly ordered me. After dinner, I sat in the living room and started learning my previous professional knowledge again. I started to pick up the professional knowledge that was left behind before, because I planned to return to the workplace. After I got married to Trader said that he didn't want me to be too tired and proposed that I go home and rest well and let him take over the company. I believed his words wrongly and really handed over the management of the company to Trader. That company was founded from scratch by my dad and his friend. Fortunately, I listened to the advice of my dad's friend and didn't hand over the equity to Trader. Otherwise, starting over again, I would still be doomed. Trader was sitting opposite me handling affairs with a tablet. Siren was sitting next to him, clinging tightly. It seemed that they were a couple, and I was a guest from outside. Originally, it would be fine if there was no trouble. But suddenly Siren said, "Vengeance, pour me a glass of water." Both I and Trader were stunned for a moment. We didn't expect her to order me around so directly. Seeing that I didn't respond to her, she said it again, "Didn't you hear me? Pour me a glass of water." I closed my computer and looked at her coldly. "Who are you ordering around?" Scanned by my cold eyes, Siren immediately became weaker. She turned to look at Trader and then gathered her courage again. Siren said righteously, "I am pregnant now and it's inconvenient for me to move. What's wrong with asking you to pour me a glass of water? Brother Trader, right?" I looked at Trader and waited for his reply. Trader said to me, "Vengeance, Siren is inconvenient now. Just help her. It's not a big deal." After hearing Trader's words, Siren couldn't hide her happiness on her face. I can only reply with a hee hee. I glanced at Siren. "Don't forget who is the master here. I agreed to let you stay at my home. It doesn't mean that I have to serve you. As long as I don't want to, I can kick you out at any time." Hearing my words, Siren bit her lip and looked at Trader pitifully. "Brother Trader, I am pregnant and it's inconvenient. I just want Sister Vengeance to help me." The grievance in her tone made people who didn't know think that I had done something to her. Trader glared at me and said, "Why can't you just go and pour a glass of water?" I looked at him coldly. "If I remember correctly, this is my home. I have no obligation to take care of an outsider. If you must be generous at others' expense, if you do it yourself, she would have had water long ago." I deliberately emphasized the word outsider. After hearing it, Siren's face became unnatural and Trader also became embarrassed. Seeing that I wouldn't give in, Trader stuck his neck and said, "I'll pour it if I pour it." After saying that, he walked to the dining table and poured water for Siren. Seeing this, Siren quickly got up. I looked at her. "Where are you going?" Siren said aggrievedly, "I'm afraid Brother Trader can't do it well. I'd better do it myself." I mocked, "He's not physically disabled. What's wrong with pouring a glass of water? And didn't you say that it's inconvenient for you with a big belly? Now it's convenient to pour water? You, just sit still. After all, you are a guest. As the host, Trader should entertain you." Siren understood the hidden meaning in my words and her face became even uglier. Siren's face became distorted because of anger. "Little thing, fighting with me. I will let you see how I take revenge on you in this life." Trader's mother suddenly came out from the countryside. She said that she hadn't seen me and Trader for a long time and wanted to take care of us for a few days. She also said that she heard from Trader that there is now a pregnant woman at home and she can also help take care of her. I don't believe her. In my previous life, when I was paralyzed on the bed, she only came to see me once. When she saw me, she was still very disgusted and asked Trader why he didn't leave me in the hospital but still kept me at home. I begged her to stay and take care of me. She just said coldly that she was not available. Now she will take the initiative to come home to take care of us, and there is also a pregnant siren? But soon, I knew why. The private detective I hired has found out everything. It turns out that Siren and Trader knew each other long ago. They are from the same hometown. I suddenly remembered that it was Trader who brought up sponsoring students to me first. And the sponsored object was also chosen by Trader for me. At that time, my mother was sick and I was busy taking care of her. So I didn't think much about it and agreed immediately. I didn't expect that Trader had set me up so long ago. And the private detective also found out that Siren doesn't have any boyfriend at all. The child in Siren's belly is Trader's. They were together when Siren was in high school. In high school, Siren's parents died in a car accident. Siren became helpless and looked for backers everywhere. Then she met Trader, who was glamorous, and returned to his hometown at that time. She knew that Trader was already married. She also knew that Trader's mother was dissatisfied with me. So she chose a roundabout way. She first found Trader's mother. Trader married into my family. His mother has always been dissatisfied with this matter and me. Now there is suddenly a person who obeys her and says that she wants to be with her son. Although she is not as rich as me, she is young and obedient. She immediately agreed. Trader's mother actively matched them up and also helped them keep me in the dark, spending my money, living in my house, and asking me to raise a bastard. They are really good at calculating. Trader's mother came very quickly. She said she would come to the house at noon and arrived at my home in the evening. She also brought 2 chickens from the countryside, saying that she wanted to nourish Siren's body. As soon as she entered the door, she revolved around Siren and Trader. People who didn't know would think that Siren was her real daughter-in-law and I was the outsider staying temporarily. I watched the 3 of them happily with cold eyes, and my anger grew higher and higher. That's just right. It will facilitate my next actions. Chapter 3 At the dinner table, I officially proposed that I would return to the company. The 3 of them, Trader and the others, were all stunned. Trader asked, "Why do you suddenly want to go back to the company for no reason? Isn't it good to stay at home?" Trader's mother was also anxious and said, "Yes, why go back to the company? Just let Trader take care of it. And who will take care of Siren with me when you go back to the company?" I find it funny. I looked at Trader's mother and said, "Did I say that I would take care of her? Didn't you say that you came to take care of her? She is now eating and living on my expenses. Do I still have to take care of her? Did I make her pregnant? She can also choose to move out. If you are so worried that there is no one to take care of her, why don't you stay and take care of her? Or, does the child in her belly have anything to do with you?" Hearing my words, the faces of the 3 of them changed. "What are you talking nonsense?" Trader shouted at me. Siren turned pale on one side and said aggrievedly, "Vengeance, even if I am now living in your home and spending your money, you don't have to say that about me, right? Brother Trader and I are now being slandered like this by you." I looked at them with amusement. "Why, I'm just joking. Why are you so nervous? Could it be that I really hit the mark?" Trader and Siren realized that they were too nervous. They kept a sullen face and stopped talking. Seeing that they were all quiet, I officially announced, "Starting tomorrow, I will go back to work in the company. I go back to my own family's company and don't need the consent of others." The last meal ended unhappily. After I returned to my room and took a shower, Trader still hadn't returned to the room. I turned on the bug installed in Siren's room. Sure enough, I heard Trader's voice. Trader's voice was unprecedentedly gentle. The 2 of them were gentle and affectionate inside. Siren asked Trader if what I said at dinner today meant that I already knew about their affairs. Trader comforted her and said, "Vengeance is a person who only knows how to take care of skin and grow flowers and stays at home all day. How could she know these things? Just rest assured and have your baby." Siren then asked, "Now that Vengeance is going back to the company, what if she takes away your right to speak? What should we do?" Trader sneered disdainfully and said, "Since she was pregnant before, she hasn't cared about the company's affairs. After the miscarriage, she is even less in the mood. Fortunately, we bribed the masseur before and asked the masseur to use some means to cause Vengeance to have a miscarriage. Now Vengeance doesn't have a child. As long as you give birth to the child, I will have a way to transfer all of Vengeance's property to our child's name. I felt extremely cold. It turns out that the unborn child I have always felt guilty about was not killed by me. In the second year after I got married to Trader, I got pregnant. I had been looking forward to the arrival of this little life. Contrary to my excitement, at first Trader didn't seem very happy. But after he talked to his mother on the phone, Trader asked me to stay at home and have a good pregnancy. He said that he would take care of the company's affairs. At that time, I was overwhelmed by the joy of becoming a mother for the first time. Without thinking much, I agreed not to go back to the company and stay at home to have a good pregnancy. My pregnancy reaction was relatively severe. I started to have cramps at 3 months. Taking calcium supplements didn't help. After knowing this, Trader's mother introduced a masseur. She said that after having a massage, the frequency of cramps would be less. After seeing the masseur, at first the frequency of cramps did indeed decrease. I also began to trust that masseur slowly. But after a massage, I began to feel abdominal pain. By the time I found out the problem and went to the hospital, it was too late. Trader's mother complained implicitly and explicitly that I was careless and caused the miscarriage, making her lose her first grandson. Although Trader was comforting me all the time, I could also feel his impatience. After the miscarriage, my body became weaker. The doctor said that it would be even more difficult for me to get pregnant in the future. Under the repeated accusations of Trader and his mother, I really thought that the miscarriage was my problem. Unexpectedly, they bribed that masseur. I called my childhood friend who studied medicine and asked. She said that during pregnancy, some acupoints are indeed not allowed to be massaged. Among them are the acupoints on the abdomen. I still remember that the masseur had massaged the abdomen before. I also tried to stop it. As a result, the masseur said it was okay. How could the masseur not know which acupoints cannot be massaged? In addition to the company, they also took away the life of my child. I was so angry that I was shaking all over. I wished I could rush in and make them pay right now. But I have to continue to endure. I backed up the recording I just heard and kept it as evidence for later. I will let them watch with their own eyes how they become penniless. Chapter 4 On my first day back at the company, I demoted Trader by 1 level. Trader didn't raise any objections. He also hypocritically said in front of other shareholders that although I hadn't been in charge of company affairs for several years, he believed that I could definitely be competent for this position. The whole sentence was a compliment with hidden criticism. For a moment, the eyes of some shareholders looking at me were not right. But Trader really underestimated me. When I was not married before, I could pull the company back from the brink. Now I can also take the company back from Trader's hands. After I returned to the company, I quickly won several big cases that Trader hadn't been able to win for a long time to consolidate my position. Under the comparison, Trader's position in the company became even more shaky. While continuously winning cases, I was also looking for people I trusted to recheck the company's accounts together. Because after I took over, I found that there was a big discrepancy between the company's accounts and reality. After further investigation, I found that the previous accountant was Trader's distant cousin. After checking the accounts one by one, I found that there was really a big loophole in the middle. The whereabouts of a sum of money was unknown. Just thinking about it, I knew it went into Trader's pocket. I kept the evidence and wanted to settle accounts together at the end. As my prestige in the company became higher and higher, things developed in an uncontrollable direction for Trader. Trader began to panic. He began to find various reasons to make me leave the company and tried to make me become a housewife again. Trader even used the excuse of preparing for pregnancy. Trader said to me, "Vengeance, don't you also want a child when you see Siren's child? Go home and take good care of your body. After you take good care of yourself, let's have another child, okay?" I find it ridiculous. My previous child was killed by their mother and son working together. Now he actually has the nerve to use a child to make me give up my career. I endured the nausea and played Tai Chi with him, it doesn't matter. I can also take care of my body while working. Now I have got a handle on the company's affairs. For me, it's nothing. It's hard for me to return to the company again. I don't plan to leave anymore. Hearing my words, Trader's face instantly became ugly. But soon, he put on a smile again. Trader said gently to me, "Okay, then it's all up to you." I found that Trader's attitude towards me has changed 180 degrees recently. Our previous way of getting along, to put it nicely, is treating each other with respect. To put it bluntly, we are a couple in a marriage in name only. Even though there was a honeymoon period when we were in love before, but now the passion has been slowly worn away. Only this legal relationship of marriage is left to maintain. So now Trader's kindness to me is, for me, offering kindness without a reason. Trader also brings me a bowl of medicine every night. He said it was specially for conditioning my body. When Trader brought the medicine for the first time, I suddenly remembered that in my previous life, for a period of time, Trader suddenly brought me a bowl of medicine every night, saying it was for conditioning my body. After drinking it for a while, I began to have symptoms of weakness in my hands and feet, vomiting and diarrhea. After that, I was diagnosed with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. There is no gene for amyotrophic lateral sclerosis in my family. I always feel that my death in my previous life is also related to Trader's sudden concern. Because of this suspicion, I became vigilant. I didn't drink the medicine that Trader brought every time. I kept a sample and sent it to my childhood friend for testing. The test results came out quickly. My childhood friend asked me with a solemn face where this sample came from. He said that heavy metals were detected from it. My mind was instantly filled with only roaring. I asked him in a trembling voice, "Then do you know what the symptoms of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis are?" In the early stage, there is weakness in the limbs, then it gradually atrophies, and finally there will be difficulty breathing. Will there be gastrointestinal diseases? My childhood friend said resolutely, "I guarantee to you with my knowledge of studying and practicing medicine for so many years that there will definitely not be. But heavy metal poisoning will." I suddenly remembered that Trader's cousin works in a chemical plant. It turns out that the cause of my death in my previous life was not amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, but heavy metal poisoning. I felt extremely cold. My child died at the hands of Trader and them, and I also died at their hands. In the medicine that Trader brings every day, there is a murderous intention towards me. Behind Trader's gentleness and consideration every day, there is none other than a knife pointed at me. Chapter 5 On the day I got the test results, I didn't go back to that home full of murderous intentions towards me. Early the next morning, I asked the personnel department to issue a notice of personnel change. I fired Trader. When I passed by Trader's office, I saw Trader getting angry inside. Trader stopped the employees who were packing his things and questioned them why they touched his things. The employees inside were afraid of Trader's relationship with me, but they were also restricted by the fact that the transfer notice was issued by me, so they had to tell the truth. They told Trader that I had fired him. Trader didn't believe it. He sneered, "I am Vengeance's husband. What reason does she have to fire me? And this company will be mine sooner or later. Do you believe that I can fire you right now if you say such things?" I really couldn't listen anymore. What does it mean that this company will be his sooner or later? This company will only belong to Vengeance. I pushed the door in, "It's working hours. What are you arguing about here?" Trader immediately looked at me and asked for confirmation. "Vengeance, they came to my office early in the morning and touched my things without permission. They all said that you fired me. It's not true, right? How could you fire me?" I nodded and said, "They are indeed right. You are fired." Trader opened his eyes wide and looked at me. "Vengeance, what are you talking about? You want to fire me? I am your husband. I have done so many things for the company. How can you fire me now? Since you said so, then I will solve things once and for all." I took out the newly drafted document and threw it in front of Trader. "We get divorced." That light document seemed to stun Trader. He couldn't believe it and asked me, "You want to divorce me? Why?" I looked at him and said softly, "Trader, don't you really think that I don't know about the little tricks you did behind my back?" After I proposed divorce, Trader came to find me privately and asked me why I suddenly proposed divorce. In front of me, he pretended to be in a pathetic state, just like a neglected husband who was abandoned by me without conscience. I looked at him calmly and suddenly said, "In fact, Siren's child is yours, right?" "What?" Hearing my words, Trader was stunned. "I have checked Siren's affairs before. You knew each other a long time ago. Your mother also matched you two up and let you two have an affair behind my back. Is it exciting to have an affair? It should be exciting. Otherwise, it wouldn't last so long." Trader's face changed. But Trader still held on and stubbornly asked me what I was talking about. Seeing that Trader was still being stubborn, I threw a stack of photos over and told him to open his eyes and take a good look. On the scattered photos were all the intimate photos of Trader and Siren that I intercepted from the camera at home. Trader's face became even uglier. He slammed the photos on the table and started to make a fuss and said, "You just keep holding on to this small mistake I made. Won't you reflect on yourself? The reason I did this is still because you can't give birth to a child." When it came to children, I got angry. Slap. I raised my hand and slapped Trader, knocking his head to the side. "You still have the nerve to talk about children? If it weren't for you, your mother, and Siren, how could my child be gone? I tell you, I have already asked someone to find that messer. I also recorded what you and your mother said before. At that time, I will make you pay with blood." Since my conversation with Trader ended unhappily last time, I haven't seen Trader for a long time. I heard that after being fired by me, Trader has been wandering among several major shareholders of the company. Trader wants to persuade them to unite and support him, overthrow me together and make me step down. Unfortunately, his wishful thinking is doomed to fail. At the shareholder regular meeting on Monday, the door of the conference room was suddenly opened and someone came in. The person who came in was Trader. Trader is carefully dressed up today. He is dressed in a suit and leather shoes, glamorous and looks like a decent person. Trader said, "The shareholders' meeting. How can it start before I come?" I looked at him. "If I remember correctly, the company has already fired you. What are you doing back here?" Trader looked as if it was a matter of course. "I am a major shareholder of the company. Why can't I come back?" I found it funny. Where did Trader get his shares? Trader said proudly, "I have already agreed with other shareholders. They transferred their shares to me. In this way, I will be the largest shareholder of the company in the future. The right to speak in the company is now in my hands." Really? I glanced at the shareholders in front of the conference table and waited for their replies. "No, no, of course not." "Yes. We won't be so stupid." General Manager Vengeance's strength is obvious to all. Since General Manager Vengeance came back, the company's development has reached a higher level. Of course we support General Manager Vengeance. Yes. Moreover, this company was founded by General Manager Vengeance's father and us. How can we bear to see our hard work fall into the hands of others? Listening to the shareholders' words, Trader's originally confident expression was instantly shattered. Trader looked at those shareholders in shock, as if he couldn't believe that they would not follow the previously agreed routine and go back on their word. I had expected this situation early on. The old shareholders of the company are all life and death friends of my father. Moreover, my father is kind to them. After my father passed away, they didn't rebel and try to embezzle the company privately. Instead, they chose to continue operating together. As soon as Trader found them and wanted to incite them, they found me. They said indignantly that they would help me teach this shameless scumbag who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth a lesson. I asked them to pretend to agree first and then give Trader a heavy blow. I looked at Trader and continued to add fuel to the fire. I asked the new financial officer of the company to recheck the bills and found that the whereabouts of several sums of money are unknown. The company was managed by you before. Now I have called the police. You can explain it to the police yourself. Before Trader could struggle anymore, the police outside rushed in and controlled him and took him out of the conference room. When Trader was under investigation, I went home once. I want to clean up my own house. Chapter 6 After returning home, I asked the bodyguards to throw out all of Trader's things. Hearing the sound, Siren and Trader's mother both ran out and asked what I was doing. I looked at them and said, "Just right. You leave my home within today." Trader's mother said loudly, "Are you crazy? This is my son's home. What right do you have to drive me away?" I said with a smile, "Wake up. This is my home. It's in my name. Now that I have divorced your son, you move out immediately. And," I glanced at Siren, "you have to pay me back every penny I sponsored you before." Siren widened her eyes and asked me why. I looked at her. "You spend my money and still hook up with my ex-husband. I'm not some kind-hearted person. I raised a dog that bites its owner. It's good that I didn't beat it to death." After saying that, I gave the final ultimatum and asked the bodyguards to drive them out. Seeing that I was really determined, they had to say that they would go and pack their luggage first. I watched them come down with big bags and small bags. I stopped them at the door. "Wait. Let me see what you have packed and taken away first." Siren and Trader's mother's faces changed and they blocked me from looking. The bodyguards stopped them. I opened their suitcases. Good heavens! Brand name clothes, jewelry, and expensive skin care products. They only picked the expensive ones. At first glance, it was known that Trader bought them. I asked the bodyguards to take out all these things. In the end, all they had left was only a few pieces of clothes. They were anxious beside them and asked me why I took away their things. It's so funny. It is said that they used Trader's money. But in the end, isn't it still my money? Is there any problem with me taking back my own money? I ignored them anymore and asked the bodyguards to throw them out together with their luggage. I looked at the house that was empty again and felt a burst of comfort in my heart. Finally, all those parasites have been driven away. A few days later, Trader's mother only found out that Trader had been put in jail. She found me again and begged me to release Trader. When I arrived, Trader's mother had already ordered something to drink. And it wasn't just Trader's mother who came. Siren was also there. When I arrived, I just saw Trader's mother's hand leaving my cup. When they saw me coming in, both of them were panicked for a moment. Before I could sit down, Trader's mother hurriedly said to me that I should release Trader. She said that her son was innocent and couldn't have done such a thing. She also said that I was really venomous. For a little money, I could even send my own husband in. I coldly watched her make a scene in front of me. Her voice also attracted the attention of the people around. Siren couldn't stand the embarrassment and pulled Trader's mother beside her and asked her to lower her voice. I looked at Trader's mother and said, "Trader embezzled the company's funds privately. I believe you are more clear than me about where those funds were spent. The company's financial officer before was introduced to Trader by you. Siren was also matched up by you for Trader. What do you mean by asking me to come here now?" I just wanted to help relatives." Hearing my counter-question, Trader's mother stammered and couldn't answer. Then Siren said, "Vengeance, anyway, you can't have children now. When you die, your company will still fall into the hands of outsiders. Now I am pregnant with Trader's child. You bail Trader out. After that, I will adopt the child to you. Then you don't have to worry about this anymore." Siren's calculation is so loud that even a deaf person can hear it. What does my property have to do with them? Trader's mother also quickly agreed with Siren's statement. "Yes. At least we need to find an heir." I looked at them coldly. How dare they say such things? Chapter 7 Seeing that I had been silent, Trader's mother looked at me pleasingly and said, "Vengeance, you must be thirsty. Come and have a glass of water to moisten your throat." Trader's mother had never been so concerned about me before. I remembered the movement of Trader's mother when I just came in and her panicked look when I came in. It seems that there is something wrong with this drink. I restrained myself and didn't move. Later, I finally found an opportunity. Siren had to go to the toilet. But because it was inconvenient to move, she asked Trader's mother to accompany her. Trader's mother thinks that Siren is now pregnant with the only bloodline of her family. So she has always followed Siren in everything, for fear that Siren will not be comfortable. I didn't have this kind of treatment when I was just pregnant. When I had severe pregnancy reaction, Trader's mother just said disgustedly that it was disgusting. During the time they were away, I switched the positions of the two drinks. After Trader's mother came back, she picked up the cup and took a sip. I looked at Trader's mother and said, "Do you really think the child Siren is carrying now is your son's?" "Of course." Trader's mother looked as if it was a matter of course. "They were introduced by me. Whose child is in her belly if it's not my son's?" "Really?" I smiled mockingly. I took out a file bag from my bag and handed it to Trader's mother. "Look at these things first." In the folder were several photos of Siren and a little yellow-haired guy having a prenatal examination in the obstetrics and gynecology department of the hospital. There was also a recording inside. I accidentally ran into Siren and the little yellow-haired guy when I went to the hospital to get the test report from my childhood friend last time. Then I heard their conversation. The child is the little yellow-haired guy's, not Trader's. Later, I found out through investigation that the little yellow-haired guy is Siren's junior high school classmate. He doesn't study all day and enters society to be a little hooligan without taking the high school entrance examination. But he has a fairly good appearance, which makes Siren devoted to him. The little yellow-haired guy has never had a stable source of income. The proposal to find a backer was put forward by the little yellow-haired guy. After finding out that Siren was pregnant, it was also the little yellow-haired guy who asked Siren to cling to Trader, this golden mountain, and use the child to get all the property. They calculated thousands of times but didn't expect that I was reborn. My rebirth is like a butterfly flapping its wings, which has changed everything at once. Trader's mother looked at these things and her face was ugly. After Siren knew what was in the file bag, her face began to turn pale. She quickly stood up and took Trader's mother's hand. In a panic, she said, "No, Mom. Listen to my explanation." Before she could finish speaking, she was slapped away by Trader's mother. Trader's mother gave Siren a hard slap. Siren fell heavily to the ground. "You bitch. You slut actually dared to find my son to take over." Trader's mother cursed loudly. Siren sat on the ground, covering her face with one hand and her stomach with the other. She looked extremely embarrassed. Watching this good show, I reminded again, "By the way, Auntie. I accidentally exchanged our 2 drinks just now. So, what you just drank is mine. But, it should be okay, right?" Hearing my words, Trader's mother's face changed greatly. What? What? Hearing my words, Trader's mother, regardless of being in a public place, stretched out her finger and probed into her mouth, dry heaving and trying to induce vomiting by sticking her finger down her throat. On one side, Siren weakly shouted and asked the people around to help call an ambulance. I coldly watched all this, feeling the pleasure of having a great vengeance fulfilled. Later, I heard that although Trader's mother was sent to the hospital, she still had mild heavy metal poisoning, with continuous skin ulcers, vomiting and diarrhea. As for Siren, because her fetal position had been somewhat unstable before, that slap from Trader's mother directly caused her to have a miscarriage. Moreover, Siren had a miscarriage in a relatively advanced stage of pregnancy, and her body was also damaged. The doctor said that she could never get pregnant again. The final investigation of Trader also came out. He was charged with job embezzlement and misappropriation of public funds. By the time he was released, he would have long been out of touch with society. After resolving all the matters, I cherished the life obtained from this rebirth and officially devoted myself wholeheartedly to the development and operation of the company. Under my operation, the company flourished, and I became a famous iron lady and an industry legend. Starting over, I got rid of the love-struck mindset of my previous life and lived out the true appearance of a woman again.